Well, first of all, Joey, how are you and the players? I imagine it's been a tough couple of weeks.
Yes, it's not been easy. I think that's for everybody in and around the country as well. It's not just us, obviously. Been disrupted with injuries, COVID, suspension, and it's obviously disrupted the fixture programme. So not ideal. Been used to staying on the go through Christmas. I've only had one period when I played abroad where we had a winter break. But apart from that, been used to playing Boxing Day every season, pretty much, apart from the last two. So yeah, I'm hoping the start of January and then the new year is a lot better than the start of last year, because I got sacked on the 4th of January of Fleetwood after the COVID break. So I'm hoping the start of this year is a lot better for us when we eventually resume the schedule.
You painted quite a bleak picture ahead of the Scunthorpe game that didn't take place in the end. At its worst, how many players were you down to? How many players had COVID?
It depended, because we had, I think, 5 or 6 who obviously picked up COVID over the period, and then you have close contacts. Obviously, players had to isolate, and we had close contacts with staff members as well. So we were decimated, really. I mean, there was a day last week where there was just myself and Kevin Bondier. We had no staff apart from that. So Bondi was back from a 10-day layoff after having a bit of illness himself. So it wasn't ideal, but again, you've just got to find a way through. At the end of the day, we're only playing football. I mean, let's not get carried away with it. We're only having a game of footy. Yet we're professional, yet we want to do everything right. But there's more pressing matters, in the world, and obviously people are having a lot more problems with employment in certain sectors and stuff like that. So, we're relatively fortunate in terms of, we're kind of guaranteed, our money whether we play or not. So look, don't be feeling sorry for us. It's fortunately got through our group without, at this moment in time, causing any real grave illness. We haven't had any of the kind of symptoms of long COVID as we had from, the last time when it first went through. We had, a couple of our boys who were really impacted for weeks, even months afterwards with long COVID. And they struggle to get back to full fitness. As of yet, we haven't had anybody who's been suffering for over, a week, 10-day period. So fingers crossed that if anybody does get it, we've still got a few to get it. We think who were unvaccinated, but a majority of our squad are vaccinated, double jabbed, and so on and so forth. So obviously, if anybody gets it, that does lessen the impact a little bit.
And have your players been able to train during this period?
Yeah, we've trained, but again, it's been intermittently in terms of, we've had a lot smaller groups and a lot smaller numbers than what we would normally have. And there's been days where, you've had 14 to train, and then there's been days when there's been 9 or 10. So, it's been tough. We had Belly, obviously, was a issue because we only had young Jed Ward who was fit. I had to spend a day in goals myself. I had to get Ansi's old gloves on because we had Ansi not here, Belly not here, and obviously Jed, and there was no goalie, so I had to join in and get the gloves on myself and go in goals. It was really, really stiff the day afterwards. I'll tell you, it'll probably be the last time I'll be going in there. I thought it was 21, and after the session I felt like I was 81. So yeah, it's been needs bust, but we've been getting on with it. The lads have had an extended period home where they've got Christmas Day and Boxing Day with the families, which, as a professional football person, it's very, very rare that you get that opportunity. So you have to make good of a bad, poor situation.
And so, team news for Leyton Orient. Who's not available for the game on New Year's Day?
Well, we've only got one defender as it stands. We're awaiting PCR results on. We had 2 defenders. And we've had 3 games cancelled. We've had them, and we've gone down now. Out of those 2 defenders, obviously one's awaiting PCR results. So it's still Alf Kilgore's still a couple of weeks away. Connor Taylor, hasn't been in the building. I've got to be careful here because you can't name names, can you? I did say that last time, and they said, there's obviously an issue with it. So it's tough to have a conversation with you about players when I need to name the names of them to tell you who's in the building, who's not in the building due to obviously what's going on. So it's strange, very, very strange. But again, we're kind of chomping at the bit now. We're keen to get going, but obviously, if we haven't got the right personnel to do that, it'd be very naive of us, I think, to do so. I mean, we've got a lot of injuries and obviously taper it. The COVID situation into that. It's just caused chaos, really.
Well, that leads us on to the January transfer window reopening. You've spoken openly about wanting to add to your squad. Has that been heightened because of your lack of defenders?
No, not really. No, I just think it's an opportunity to bring one or two in that might complement the group that you've already got. I mean, for us, we don't really feel there's a massive need to do an awful lot, albeit there's obviously we want to do something on the front line, and we would like to bring at least one, if not a couple of options in there. But I mean, January market is kind of notoriously difficult to do that. But we'll obviously, when the window opens, explore that. We'll obviously have players our end also who won't have played enough minutes, and I'll probably want to go and see if there's other options for them out there. So it is an opportunity to freshen up the building. It is an opportunity to as I say, just shuffle the deck a little bit. But for us, it's about getting momentum and finishing the second half of the season really, really strongly. And as I say, we won against Rochdale last time out, and it feels like a lifetime ago that we played that game. So frustrating because you want to keep that momentum, but we're fully all aware of the situation that's going on in the world at this moment.
And Leyton Orient, they beat you at the Mem earlier this season. They've lost the last couple of games. What are you expecting from them on New Year's Day?
Typical, Kenny Jackett's side. They'll be very, very competitive. They'll test you physically. And as we know from the home game, you have to be switched on. I mean, the first two goals for them were set plays or second phase of a set play. So they test you in that department. I mean, I was, because of our cancellations, I was lucky enough to see them live at Tranmere when they were unfortunate in a narrow defeat there. But yeah, the two big boys up front, Draynon and Smith, will cause you problems, and then they've got a lot of quality components underneath that. Obviously, Pratley, I think, returned from suspension. So yeah, look, it'll be a tough challenge going to their place. They'll obviously be wanting to, correct those last couple of defeats, and for us, it's about keeping that momentum and getting those 3 points back from the defeat at the Mem in the early part of the season.
Just finally, I appreciate your time this morning. I think it'll be a 21-day gap from your last game, but it's almost like a fresh start now. What are your ambitions for Rovers going into the new year?
Well, we need to kick on and be a lot better. We're obviously alive in the league table because everybody's been knocking everybody off at different stages, so the league is relatively tight. And the second half of the season is clearly set up for those teams that can be more consistent and put unbeaten runs together and be very, very difficult in every single match. So that's what we intend to be in the new year. But again, it's probably not just me who's thinking that. There's probably 7 or 8 other managers, and you want to be one of those managers that gets on a run early. And as I say, for us, you've got to look at January, February as kind of moving time and putting yourselves in position for the final few furlongs of March, April, and May. And we've got a bit of catch up to do after the opening gambit. But we feel we've got more than enough quality and togetherness to get ourselves part of the promotion shake-up.